Hello everybody, and welcome to another exciting episode of Behind the Scenes, where I take you this week on a behind-the-scenes look at the photography on a trail run. It'll be the Midyear Trail Run held at the Muratie wine estate in Stellenbosch in South Africa. As a bonus feature this time, I'll be showing you how I set up my remote camera so that I can have a camera set on a tripod taking photographs automatically as the athletes come past. So let's get to it. One of the biggest problems I have in an event is that there's only one of me, and sometimes I need to be in 2, even 3 places. So what I do is I have a camera set up on a tripod that is triggered remotely. That gives me the ability to have a photograph of every single one of the runners or cyclists that come past that camera. If you look here, I'll show you how that would look. As they come past, nothing changes but the runners. And here's a little bit of video I shot showing the camera with a little radio receiver that'll operate over a range up to 200 or 300 meters. This is one of the infrared beams and its battery with the transmitter for the camera set on the other end of that. Then across the trail is the infrared transmitter. You'll see I've camouflaged it, or runners pick it up and have a look at it, so I don't want them to even see it's there. And this all shoots back to the remote camera just down the trail. As they break the beam, the camera takes their photograph. You can see it's over there at about 20 meters away from the runners. And you'll see the next photograph is a runner running towards that camera on the trail. And then this is the photograph of what the camera actually took. So that briefly is how my remote camera works. Now on to the rest of the photos from that race. First thing I did when I got to the event, have a quick cup of coffee from the magnificent barista that Dirtopia always have on site at their races. Then it was up the trail to set up my remote camera. Once that's done and everything's working and tested, then I'll come down and start photographing the behind the scenes shots, the sponsor shots, what happens at the start of the race. And here we are. This is quite a good shot because Sportsman's Warehouse is the sponsor of the trail series. But it also shows the organizer, Dirtopia's race number, so they get a bit of a blast in there as well. It was the end of June when this race happened, which is just the start of winter in the southern hemisphere here in South Africa. So it's getting a little bit chilly, a couple of braziers with some fires going. Weather wasn't too bad. It was definitely t-shirts weather for me. One of the vendors who was providing free energy bars, PVM energy bars, famous South African brand, and a little bit of the local scenery with the old jalopy car and the signage for the Muratie trailhead, Muratie being the wine estate on which this race and the trails are. Just a shot of the start-finish arch with the sponsor's branding, the Sportsman's Warehouse. If you've ridden any of the trails on the western side of Stellenbosch, then chances are this man, Muratie, built them. And they're superb for trail running, but more particularly for mountain biking. So if you have a mountain bike, you're in Stellenbosch on holiday, pop over to Muratie and ride on some of the Conservancy trails. This is just a minute or so before the start, which started at 8:45, and a rookie error on my behalf. I didn't set my camera clocks to the correct time. So you'll see this camera shows it only 8:42, meanwhile it's 8:45 in about 10 seconds. And then this is one of the things that happens. I've chosen this spot. I figured this would be a really great shot. And just before the runner set off, this lady wandered in front of my camera in front of the little aloe and got in all my shots. This is one of the funniest things you always see. You'll see them 1, 2, 3 seconds and spook. There's my friend Larissa getting a close-up of the lens, probably checking that it's clean. Here's another rookie error. You'll see my shutter speed sitting at 1/200th of a second, which is way too low, but that's what I was shooting at when I was doing the pre-race shots around the start area, and I clean forgot to increase it. Normally I'd get a terribly blurred photo, but I was just lucky here that it wasn't too bad. But it's just something to remember. Always check your settings when you move scenes. It's a bit tricky with shooting these trail runs because there's a long route and a short route, and the long route starts quarter of an hour before the short route does, and they go on completely separate routes for the start of the race and only meet up with about 2.5 kilometers to go. So I need to choose where I want to be. But the difficulty is if you're too soon on the route, then they just come past in a long train of people and all your photographs end up looking the same. So here we are, I'm riding down towards where I'm going to go up on the hill. I'm on my mountain bike, and to my right, the riders are now just starting to hit the bottom slopes of the trails. And to my left, they're about to cross the road that I'm on. So I can get them from both directions here. And slowly climbing up the single track. And as I say, these are tracks you can run or ride on every day of the week. My first spot, halfway up the hill, great big rock. I always end up shooting here, and it's quite spectacular. And you can get so many different shots within 20 or 30 meters from this spot. You'll see what I mean now. There's a train of runners coming towards me out of the bushes. They've all sort of congregated together on the trail because obviously they're all running at the same sort of pace and at the same level of fitness. I love the colors this early in the morning. It was a tricky day for the light because it was alternating between very overcast, and then the sun would come out and the exposure settings would change, and you had to be playing around with your exposure compensation the whole morning. And another one through the long grass, using it to frame the runner. Happy smiling face. I enjoy a photograph like that. This is when the sun had just come out and it worked in my favor, and this, in my opinion, is just one of those glorious photos you get sometimes. You just get lucky, and the light and the runner and her pose and the grass. The next photo, it was quite dark again. The sun had gone. This is the same place, just turned 90 degrees, catch them coming towards me, frame the runners through the grass and the embankment. And the runners here coming out of the trees, the slope is on the left and going down on the right. Love it with the light coming through the long grass. But the direct sun has now disappeared again. And here I got lucky again. The runner's long hair with the light shining through the clouds and backlighting her. And the bush is really cool. I like that shot. This is the same shot I was shooting at a few shots back, and this time the runners have stopped and congregated and having a little bit of chat and a discussion. It's always a good shot for the organisers to have because they can use it for many scenarios on the farm, from their hiking trails to running and mountain biking. This is that shot I showed you earlier with the runner running towards the trail camera, and the photograph that the trail camera took. This is just highlighting some of the beautiful scenery that you get on these Dirtopia runs, and particularly here at Muratie with the Simmonsberg mountains behind. Some days you get lucky with the runners hamming it up for the camera, and this time I got the whole zombie apocalypse scene going on right in front of me. And I have to confess, this had me in puddles of giggles. This is a shot that shows how a photograph can lead your eye through it with the path in the background, coming then across the center of the screen, and you can see exactly the route that the runner's taken, and it kind of makes me want to go and run there right now. Popping over a rise, these are all classic shots. It gives you impression of the heights that they're having to climb before they can get up to the flat and level again. Looking out now to the other side of the farm, I'm probably only 200 meters away from where I was shooting earlier, but with the sun directly behind me, and that then creates an issue where quite often my shadow will fall into the photograph, and I'll show you more of those just now. Just another example of how your eye can be led down the trail and through the photograph. Always expect the unexpected. I never have my camera to shoot at a massive frame rate. It's normally on the slowest 6 or 7 frames per second, otherwise I end up having to edit all those photos. So you have to be prepared for when someone jumps and just zap the trigger. Here's a runner who's below me, so you get a different perspective, up-down perspective. Running through the trees, it's always very dark in there. This runner's just coming out of the front of the trees. My ISO is sitting at 1250, which is quite high for a shot that is now taken in broad daylight at 9:45 in the morning. Then now deeper into the trees, I've got my ISO at 3200 so that I can keep a reasonably high shutter speed just to get the photo sharp. This looks like a nothing photo, but the signboard in the background is what I was going for. So the people who run the trails and the farm owners can use that in their marketing to show how well marked the trails are. Coming up towards the race end now, you see the light has changed again. The clouds are starting to disappear, and the temperature of the light has completely changed. It's quite cool color light now. Almost 10 o'clock, the clouds are almost completely gone, and you can see the harsh light that is thrown on this runner's face. But you can also see that even though it's 10 o'clock in the morning, the sun is very low. If you look at the shadow that's going across the top of her body, it's coming from a very low angle, so that makes exposure tricky, because there's very strong highlights and very dark darks. And you have to edit accordingly to drag a shot out of it. That's why I've shown it. It's not a fantastic photograph, but I wanted you to see the difficulties you can have in that kind of light. Happy photos. Everyone loves these photos. The organizers love them. They can use them for a lot of promotion. This is an example of the sun being behind me. And normally if I wasn't hiding in the shade behind these bushes, then you would see my shadow in this photograph, which you can't have. You wouldn't be able to use that photograph at all. So you always have to be aware of your own shadow. And also you'll see the light in the runner in the second position there. It's already quite harsh on her face, and I've had to edit for that. Again, my shadow would have been in this, but I had to slightly move around the trail, get down low, hold the camera up, and that's how we get around that. A little bit of something different. As the runners were running away from me, they were creating some dust that was kicked up by their shoes. So I took a photo of that. It was a little bit dustier in real life than this photo shows. But again, it's a generic photo that the race organizers and the farm management can use for years to come. This immediately after the race, they've crossed underneath the sponsor's arch. They're having a cold drink. They've got the medals around their neck. It's a great publicity shot that can be used. Run for beer. I would settle just for beer. I don't have to run for it, but it's a good story. It's got Dirtopia, the race organizer's banner in the background. It's got the beer. It's got the shirt. It's a fun image that really appealed to me. The prizes, Muratie Wine Estate obviously providing lots of wine for the winners and Folky socks, and Sportsman's Warehouse with their vouchers. And the obligatory prize-giving photo, making sure that you show the sponsors prizes that were donated by them. And that's the end of the behind the scenes of the Midyear Trail Run. If you would like any other subjects covered, or if you'd like me to go into more detail, for example, on how the remote camera triggering system works, then leave a comment below. Other than that, we'll see you next time.